Michael, and this is day 3 for a year of Thinking Magically. And while we're giving everybody a chance to get in here, I'll go ahead and start to queue up the comments. It occurs to me that we could either choose to be affected by the world or to affect the world. And as Jane Goodall put it, I forgot what she said. I was so busy before we got on here asking my husband if Jane Goodall was still alive, because I was going to say the late Jane Goodall. Oh yeah, she said, what you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of a difference you make, or something along those lines. This morning we're going to really dive into a really hearty subject. A number of people decided they were going to allow themselves to become a little uncomfortable and make a difference at the same time by honestly and openly, very vulnerably posting their thoughts and ideas and beliefs out there on this morning's reflection. So I first want to give major kudos to those folks. When we come back, we're going to talk about the powerful transformation that comes from being more mindful with our words and our actions as we tackle the question, are my words more concerned with making an impression or making a difference? More on that when we get back. And I really have to get an intro that's a little bit longer because I can't get that coffee down in the amount of time that we have here. So good morning to everybody, Jeffrey and Kelly, Anne Marie, Michelle, Lady Fate. I'm so glad to see you guys joining us this morning. And to the Facebook user that said good morning between Lady Fate and Kelly. Good morning to you as well. If you would please follow the instructions that we offered everybody at the beginning of this course to connect your Facebook to the StreamYard platform. Otherwise, we can't engage folks when we don't know who they are. So Angela, good morning to you as well. So guys, this was a really interesting thing to see this morning, and as you saw, there was accompanying it. There was a little bit of drama in a separate post, and so let's first talk about that drama and get it out of the way, and we'll do that by recognizing that is everybody else able to hear me? I see that Kelly's saying she has no sound. If you can hear me, go ahead and let me know in the comments. So one of the things that came up today was somebody said, oh, well, I'm a horrible person because I talked about the mediocrity that we find in this group and that I've found in this group now for 10 years. Whenever we do this process with various groups, that essentially 80% of the people, it's called the Pareto principle, 80% of the people are going to do absolutely nothing with the material, whether they paid $900 for it or not. And the 20% of the people are going to do 80% of the participation and 80% of the work. And in this particular group right now, so far, we're really actually above that. There are about 30% of the people who are watching the videos and about 20% who are actually participating. So, excuse me, kudos to the ones who are participating. And to folks who say, well, you're just being harsh because it's only been 3 days. I understand that people can have illnesses. I understand that family issues can arise, that stuff can come up. But if we're going to be honest with ourselves, and this is a personal development group, this is a group about developing that magic in your life and about living from a place of that magic. And my mentor, the late Mr. Jim Rohn, told me something when I was very young that made all the difference in the world. He said, in any given situation, you have two choices. You can either find a way or you'll find an excuse. And so if you have not been able to participate fully, then you can make a decision today. It doesn't really matter what you did. It doesn't matter to me what you did yesterday or the day before that or the day before that. Mr. Rohn also taught me that all excuses are equal. And I really would love for you guys to be able to embrace that. No matter what the story is, no matter what the excuse is, all excuses are equal. And then the equality is that you just didn't do whatever it was. So we move on from that, because if we focus on that, if we obsess about why you didn't do what you didn't do, then we're living in the past. And there's nothing we can do to change it. So it really doesn't matter. The simple fact is, if you didn't participate up until today, that's what happened in the past. Today you can make a new choice. Today you can make a new commitment. You know, if you allowed illness, for example, to be the reason why you didn't participate for the last 3 days, that's a decision that you made, and decisions always have consequences. So that means you have to catch up. That means that you might have missed some things, you know, but this, my purpose of my post was just to note the reason why we don't do these year-long programs, these master classes, for free usually. Because when you give somebody something for free, they don't show that there's any value whatsoever. So they don't have any skin in the game, and as a result, their commitment levels are a little bit weaker. But there is a group of people, that brings me right into today's topic. And there were a group of people this morning, bright and early, who were engaging and really meaningfully engaging on the reflection post today. And that was really great, because the reflection post said that we have a choice. And that choice is that we can make our words and actions be focused on making an impression, or they could be focused on making a difference. And so a conversation arose out of that, and there wasn't a general consensus that was achieved. Some people believe that their egos are always going to be a part of it, and that everybody's always going to ultimately make an impression. That wasn't what the post was about. The post said you have a choice. And so I want us to move beyond the limitations of semantics and move beyond the limitations of our perceptions, and look at actually what the question was. There was one person who answered something beautiful that had absolutely nothing to do with the conversation itself. Other people, you know, were willing to engage one another in very respectful, very meaningful ways, to share their differences of perspective. So, and I allowed that to just unfold, because in several of the cases, most of the cases, in fact, I think breakthroughs were accomplished before we even came on the show today. And so being vulnerable like that, allowing yourself, you know, to you know, put yourself out there and have people possibly disagree with you is uncomfortable. So congratulations, because if you did that, you actually embodied what yesterday's mind shift was about. So today's mind shift is about being more mindful, because if we're going to live from a place of magic, if we're going to express that magic in the world, we have to do so with intentionality, and intentionality begins with that mindfulness. So we have to know that our words are going to create changes. They're going to affect energy. And one of the things that I always tell people is, when you're living magically, you match the energy of any given situation. And that's how you're able to accomplish the change, the shifting in that energy. But you first have to match the energy. So there is this one notion out there from pop culture, and it's toxic, and it's actually, I consider it vile. The people who say, I won't engage in negativity. I won't, you know, if somebody's negative to me, I'm not going to be negative to them. They're so full of shit that it's not even funny, because the very act of them posting that in response to things that are going on in the world, or online, or in a conversation at church or school or whatever, the very fact that they make that comment is as toxic as the situation itself. So whether they like it or not, they match the energy of that situation. So let's put out of our minds this absurd notion that there's positive energy and negative energy. There is simply energy. If you want to live magically, you have to get over that bullshit that some energy is positive, some energy is negative, some magic is white magic, some magic is dark magic. That's all nonsense. It's energy, and it's energy that we work with. And in order to positively impact your life, you have to be willing to work with the energy where it is. So you want to affect positive changes in your life, you still have to work with the energy where it is. And you move and shift and change that energy from one form to another. I'm going to, just a second, I think the mailman's actually delivering a package. Um, so that's what I want you to think about today. What do you mindfully, sorry for the noise, boy, the mail slot's full today. What do you mindfully choose to do when you communicate? Now, all of us, at one time or another, have put the need to make a difference behind the need to make an impression. We wanted to be right. We want to be recognized. Go to the school and we have a PTA fundraiser. Susie comes into the school and she says, I just want everyone to know that I'm so thankful that I was able to bring in 15 cakes from my neighborhood. And then the next conversation that comes up, Susie finds a way to mention the 15 cakes that she brought in again. And when they come back to their next PTA meeting, Susie says, you know how I brought those 15 cakes to the PTA? Yeah, we know, Susie, you brought 15 cakes to the PTA. That's about making an impression. That's not about making a difference. Because if Susie really wanted to make a difference, she would have brought those 15 cakes in and she would be thanking the people who donated the cakes and encouraging the people that are out there trying to get more on how they can bring more cakes to the PTA. So we all do it from time to time. We need to be able to make an impression. We want to be able to assert our importance in the world. But this is about making a mind shift. And so my challenge for you today is to go through the next day, and if you can, all the way through the weekend, by being more mindful before you speak and before you act. And ask yourself, just take notice. Am I doing this because I want to make an impression or because I want to make a difference? Make a choice, a conscious choice, that you're going to focus more on making a difference. It might make your words a little more measured. It doesn't mean that you have to compromise on who you are, but it means that being right isn't necessarily as important as hearing the other side's story. And so you have to be willing to hear that story and then be willing to share your story unapologetically, not necessarily agreeing on every point, not necessarily seeing things from the same perspective. If you had a friend who lived up on a mountain and another friend who lived in the valley, you wouldn't expect that either of those two people saw the same thing from their front door. And we're like that in our daily lives as well. Not everybody is going to see the same perspective. And so to the person who, again, has not followed the instructions, I wish I could put this up on the screen, and this is why you have to follow the instructions, guys, because it would be really nice to be able to share this on the screen. They wrote, thinking before I speak will be a challenge all its own. And I agree. It's, for every single one of us, I think that is part of the challenge of adulthood. That's part of the challenge in life. And it's not something that we're going to get right 100% of the time. It's not something that we're going to, the ego is what it is. And most of us are going to go through our entire lives with the ego there in the background. On the conversation today on the post, there was a number of things we're going to talk about over the course of the next year, including a need to mismatch, including to, okay, so I see that comment, thinking before you speak, that was Deborah Neary. Deborah, you need to connect your Facebook to to StreamYard because that apparently wasn't done yet, and I would have loved to have shared that on the screen. Um, and guys, if you're looking for information on that, you'll have to scroll through the timeline. That's one of the reasons why it's so important that we do things on a daily basis and not try to, oh, I'll catch up in 3 days or I'll catch up in 4 days. That really makes it difficult, and it's not fair to everyone else. It's also not fair to you. But the ego is going to be with us most of our lives. It's always going to be chattering there in the background. Sometimes we have a habit of when the ego is chattering like that, to have to mismatch, to have to say yeah but to everything that's being said. Other times we have to. I mean, it's interesting if you here comes the police car. It's a running joke that most of my shows are not ready to begin until the cop car interrupts us or a motorcycle speeds by. Um, if you just look at some of the previous broadcasts that we did and look at the people who are having conversations, chatting on the side while I'm doing this, you're not being present. You're not in the moment. If you're going to have conversation, if you're going to comment, that's one thing. But when that comment has to be crossed, you have to start having conversations, then you need to check yourself and find out why it is that you feel necessary to engage in chat when the purpose of this is supposed to be my giving you guys a reflection and you guys just commenting on that, offering any questions that you have or offering a comment. When a side conversation starts happening before the video is over, you're missing part of the content and you're not being present. So you're not really there to make a difference. You're there to make an impression. So that's what I've got for you guys today. I hope that this challenges you. This is supposed to make you uncomfortable. It's not supposed to make you feel bad. And the biggest thing I don't want anyone to do is to run away or say, I'm just not going to comment anymore because nobody agrees with me. Nobody has to agree with you. Your opinion, your voice is valued here. And your voice and my voice and everyone else's voice will change as the year goes on. We're creating an organic family, if you will, that's on a journey together in this process. So I encourage you guys to take today and tomorrow and Friday and Saturday and Sunday and try and be more mindful of why it is that you feel that you have to speak, why it is that you feel that you have something to say. Is it to make an impression, to impress folks with how much you know, or to impress folks that you're right and they're wrong, or is it because you want to make a difference? Do that, stay in the moment, be grateful for what you've got. Thanks for letting me keep you 3 minutes over, and always remember the best is yet to come. Love and appreciate you guys. I'll check out your comments and comment on those in just a few.